Welcome back to Natural 2, our D&D and tabletop role-playing podcast and talk show. I am Nathan. James, as always, is my co-host for the day, and today we were discussing something that troubles me more than I'd like to admit, but perhaps troubles every group more than they would like to admit, and that is mobility in combat, and perhaps encouraging some more mobility in combat. The reason that this kind of got brought to my attention to some extent is I was out to lunch with a friend of mine, and he brought up this scenario that actually kind of piqued my interest a fair bit, where he described he had a high-level wizard encounter with his party, and he was very much struggling long-term with preventing the party from just kind of grouping up on a single target and then just wailing on them, for lack of a better term, with the amount of different abilities they have at that stage. So he made, I guess, the boss, for lack of a better term, have these floating anti-magical barriers that he could move around to strategically block spellcasters from reaching him with things, or allies aiding one another with healing spells, or things of that nature. I don't know if he could move them in between turns or what the actual mechanics were, but he said it worked really well to not only kind of separate the party, but to make them move or think about moving to avoid these obstacles in the way. And it seemed like a very kind of simplistic solution to a somewhat persistent problem. So yeah, that's why it's all got brought to our attention today. I guess we'll throw back our ideas and our troubles and our pains back and forth, but yeah.
The first place my mind went thinking about this topic is video games. And to be honest, that's often where my mind goes, even if it's got nothing to do with anything. Because I don't want to grow up. Oh, gotta stop there. Are they still around? No, right? They got, yeah, they went under.
Yeah.
Okay, then what the heck? I'm a Toys R Us kid. Play with. But video games, I think most of us have played World of Warcraft or something like it, where you're doing the raid and the AoEs go down, and if you stay in that spot, don't stand in the fire.
Don't stand in the red ring that is slowly getting bigger.
Right, don't stand in the red ring as it counts down. So I think in a broad sense, most of the tips or thoughts that I have about this are going to come down to adding abilities to your encounter, to your monster, your boss, whatever it is, that aren't necessarily in the books. Big fan of doing this. As the DM, more so than as a player. There's probably another discussion we could have about being a player and the sort of the liberty or the creativity that comes from having a fence to play in as a player versus being DM, and it's like I do whatever I want. But as DM, adding you can either use spells that will create an area of effect to keep the players moving, but then you're using up turns of your boss to just make the party move around. So you can give them some minions that their whole job is to do things like that. Or you can put artifacts like magical turrets on the field that all they do is cast Stinking Cloud or what have you. Long story short, as the DM, cheat in order to put area of effects on the map that will force the players to have to move. This anti-magic sort of barrier, that's a nice touch. You could consider making a custom magic item that the party can end up with afterwards that has some ability like this. I might even say this is something else that's replicated in games, is while big bad evil guy has the artifact. He's able to do basically whatever he wants within a realm. And then when he's defeated and the party gets this item, it's sort of a baby version
Mhm.
of
He's like
whatever the
used the
villain was
extent of its
doing.
powers or something, or it's in the wrong
Right.
location. Yeah.
Yeah, or he's the one that made it, so he
Mhm.
knows how to get the most out of it,
Mhm.
whatever. So instead of being able to make half a dozen anti-magic barriers and move them, they can just make one static one
Mhm.
with, when they seize this item. Um, that's the the other thing I would say is maybe consider giving your monster or villain either flight, and you could also give them flight and flyby, so they're not
Mhm.
uh, or some homebrew version of flyby, so that they're not incurring opportunity attacks. They can just fly away for free as a free action. Um, or they can have a spell-like ability to Misty Step or to teleport, Dimension Door, whatever, that they can do as a bonus action 4 times a day or something. Um, and I say spell-like ability because if I'm the DM and I'm running this, I don't need the players telling me how many spells I can cast in a turn. Okay, it's my
Mhm.
villain, and I know that's a whole thing. It's a whole big problem. Oh, now you can only do a cantrip. Bite me. Okay, this guy has abilities that aren't in the book, and this is something he gets to do. Deal with it.
Mhm.
Um, Go ahead.
I think the first like barrier that you hit with that kind of advice, and where I more often kind of run into this problem, is it's hard to predict how the party is going to interact with any given environment that you give them, any sort of villain you're going to give them. And it's even harder to prevent, I suppose is the right word, stopping the party from cheesing their way through it in some way, shape, or form. The general process that usually takes place in some of my games and our games, kind of back in the day to some extent, is someone will come up with an idea to kind of lure them out or to cheese them or to like smoke them out or do something to remove them from their lair or to lure out all the enemies into one choke point or something that gives the party a massive advantage. And it comes down to the party has this idea in their head, they're excited to see it done, and then if you as the DM squash it, it never feels right. So then you kind of have to bow down a little bit so that the party enjoys themselves. And of course, the answer, I suppose, is to then do that to them, but it never causes much fun or enjoyment, as I've come to discover. So,
So I think there's a life hack to get around that, at least sometimes, and
mhm,
at least until the players figure out that that's what you're doing. Instead of squashing whatever it is that they do and making it obvious that's what you're doing and saying, well, that doesn't work, turn it into a part of the encounter, sort of make it a part of the puzzle. There's a way that you can say it doesn't work without saying it doesn't work and make it seem kind of mysterious, then that will distract them from the fact that the thing that they tried didn't work, because now they're thinking, oh, what else is this guy capable of? Or, man, he
mhm,
saw it coming, he's been studying us, or what have you. Sort of
mhm,
a variation on um listening to your party talk about what's happening and then stealing their idea.
mhm,
uh Play coy, be mysterious about why the thing they tried didn't work. Let them speculate as to why it didn't work, and then be like, "Yep, that's right.
mhm,
That's why." Um, it's a fine line, and it's not something you're always going to be able to pull off. But um, if you can turn a like, if you can dress it up, if you can sort of couch like what's really happening, we know what's really happening is I've spent all week working on this encounter, and I'm not gonna let you cheese it and throw away all the hard work I put into this. You're gonna see the cool stuff my bad guy can do. So no, that thing doesn't work. I
Mhm.
say no, and I'm the DM, and you have to deal with it. You're gonna dress that up and make it seem like, uh, what when you Ragnar call upon the power of your oath to smite this villain 6 times and burn all your spell slots on this encounter because it's the final boss and we all know it. You feel disconnected from your divine source,
Mhm.
and you're able to score your regular hit. You do strike him, but for some reason it's repelled. The divine radiance is repelled, and now it's like, ooh.
Yeah,
Now
I
you
feel like the goal is to get that ooh, but more often than not you get the So
so I also feel like there can be some overlap, or there's
Mhm.
also kind of a fine line. Like those things are next door to each other a lot of the times in this game.
Mhm.
Um, so it's about like moderation, I
Mhm.
suppose. It's not something you're going to pull out every boss fight, or else you're definitely going to get somebody's back up.
Mhm.
But if there again, this is a special villain to you that you've been working on, and you know that this whatever the party is up to is going to lead to this thing being over in 2 turns. Uh, then break the glass. Break the emergency glass. Pull out the Calvin ball, as I like to call it, and just make some shit up real quick just for this encounter, just to keep it interesting. Um, but it's kind of like hot sauce. You can do it too much. You can add too much, and it would be easy to frustrate the group. I would say you get one.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like you can. It's almost like a legendary resistance, right? It's the DM's legendary resistance of, that idea is going to work too well. No, uh, you get one,
Mhm.
and then you have to, get creative in another direction, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
So the where I struggle with this on the DM side more often than not, like this is removed from the conversation of like the players having this effect on the game, is often like dungeons, like big, expansive, sprawling dungeons that are supposedly lived in or reside some sort of, opponent. And it's really hard not to just follow the logic of, oh, there is a noise at the beginning of the cave, and someone was alerted, and now everyone in the cave is alerted, so now everyone is coming to deal with the threat, and then the dungeon is just emptied out, and the whole battle takes place at the entrance, and none of the encounter actually takes place in this sprawling map that you've made. And I think this is just one of those things that kind of in the olden days or in advanced D&D days, it was just, oh, they didn't hear you 15 feet down the corridor. They're just waiting for you to open the door, and then they're alive. Like, but now when you try and subscribe a little bit of believability to the environment that you've built, I just find it so difficult not to funnel yourself into that problem.
Well, if they are less intelligent enemies, then they may not notice, they may not care.
Mhm.
It might be that, like, if it's a cave full of goblins, the goblins get in tussles with each other all the time, so
Mhm.
they don't think that this time is any different. And if they are intelligent enemies, then those guards, those soldiers have posts.
Mhm.
And if they left their post every time they heard a noise, they probably get a whipping. So uh, the alternative, I think, the middle ground would be that they're in the same spot. They haven't moved, but now they're ready.
Yeah.
They're posted up. They've hardened their defense. Um, because that I think if the party figures out that that's happening, then that very next dungeon, make a noise outside, go hide, wait for all the enemies to run outside, and
Yeah.
then go in behind them. So, you can't pull that trick too many times before they don't actually come searching the noise out if
Hmm.
it's more than 2 rooms away.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, we sort of strayed a little bit from like
Yeah, the actual,
encouraging
yeah.
encouraging the party to move during a combat encounter.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, I think the foundation of it is a lot of D&D's mechanics are built around not moving. The more you can have them come to you, the more you can funnel them into a specific spot, the more advantageous your position is. And so that's the trap that I think both DMs and players fall into is they want to be the most effective, and the most effective is to force them into this particular situation. And so really, I guess the key to that problem is just not allowing that situation to occur, not letting some particular part in the map or the dungeon or the world or the encounter being the best spot, being able to shift that around. You can do things like layer actions or an interactive battle map that changes over time, like, hazards pop up or the ship breaks in half or, a shelf gets knocked over and now you can't be standing there, or if you were, you took massive damage or you're trapped or something of the sort. There's a lot of different things you can do there. um, I think you just have to telegraph them well enough, because if you just spring it on them without any sort of warning or information, it might feel a little bit cheap. But I think that's probably my best response to most of my problems. I just don't apply it as effectively as I should, I suppose. So,
well, we've talked a lot about the stick, which
mm-hmm.
is, if you stand in the spot, you're going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You can also use the carrot,
Mm-hmm.
which is you can also place things around the map that player would want to get to. So you could have a mansion that's burning down, but uh, if they're willing to move around the map and fight, they can grab some treasure before the place collapses.
Mm-hmm.
Or this huge monster that you're fighting in this cave is underneath a large stalactite, and it looks like maybe it would come down, but you can't get an angle from directly underneath it. You're going to have to move to the side of the cave to get a shot at the base to make this
Mm-hmm.
thing fall. You can think of reasons why not only you wouldn't want to be here, but you would want to be over there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of a
Uh,
piece of advice that gets put out a lot with just encounter design for 5e in general is don't just make the encounter, I need to kill X amount of things and then I win, or I just need to kill everything on the board and then I win. If you have other objectives, whether that is a advantage that they can secure by moving around or a literal other objective to finish the encounter, like some magical artifact they need to touch or some lever they need to hold open or anything of that sort that just pulls their attention away from just killing everything in front of them, that's an easy way to force, incentivize movement or mobility, or at least just drawing the attention of the party in different ways. So that's something that would certainly apply here too.
I think I think we can get two main points that if you incorporate this, it's going to help this problem as well as make encounters more interesting across the board for everybody. Number one is divorce XP from number of monsters killed.
Do people still use XP? I feel like that's such a small number.
That's another episode. Um, so if you are doing that, don't.
Hmm.
Or add other sources of XP as well.
Hmm.
Diversify the XP. We've always played Milestone, which has its own issues, but uh, don't incentivize taking the path of least resistance to kill everything on the board for a start. And the flip side of that, or the B side of that, is make sure that you're not creating encounters where the win condition is only and always kill everything and be
Mm-hmm.
the last people standing.
Mm-hmm.
As you were just saying, the encounter objectives can be get from here to there, or flip that lever, or retrieve that item, whatever. Hold the line, right? Like it, and figure out like when they succeed, the encounter's going to end. Whether it's because the bad guys no longer have a reason to fight, and so they run, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think those two things, in a nutshell, uh, would fix kind of a lot of issues if you really think about them and incorporate them.
Mm-hmm. And then I always kind of, my last little bit is throwing out what I, as a DM, would love to suggest to players, kind of in a broad sense. And I think my little tidbit here is when you are a player in combat and you're thinking about your turn, I feel like there is this tunnel vision on what is the most effective, how can I deal the most damage, what is the best thing I can do on my turn, which is absolutely essential, and I don't want to deter you from that. But I think you could benefit from also, once you've figured out the mechanical goal of your turn, think about the flavor, think about the environment and what's currently going on. And honestly, even if you don't physically move your token on the board, if you just describe movement during whatever action you're doing, I feel like that's at least a half measure or a step to help make the combat feel a bit more fluid versus just I stand there and RuneScape attack and wait for the opponent to RuneScape attack and then we see how much damage is done.
Throw out some inspo.
Yeah.
Give out inspiration for turns in combat that are dynamic or
Mm-hmm.
creative or exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, the carrot is all powerful.
Make that a t-shirt.
Yeah. Um, so I think that we've reached the end of that discussion,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys probably noticed before I did, but we passed the 1 year mark
Mm-hmm.
without acknowledging it at all. We were talking
Because
about
we're
doing
so
something
diligent.
special. Yeah, that exactly right. Like we were, our noses were to the grindstone, and we didn't look up long enough to see what day it was.
Mhm.
Um, so happy belated 1 year anniversary, Nathan, sir, and viewers. Um, we're gonna keep going.
Mhm.
Uh, and what you could get me for a present for this milestone
Mhm.
is to comment, like, and subscribe.
There you go.
Uh, and in particular, questions, topic ideas. I still want to do a mailbag episode at some point. Uh,
Maybe for our 2 year, we'll start building them up.
I guess so, right? It's going to take that long. So come on, you can do it. Get down there in those comments. And uh, what was your favorite episode so far?
Oh
Uh,
Jesus.
let's, what do you want to see more of? We've done some kind of loosey goosey ones in the last 2 weeks of playing Would You Rather and stuff like that, and I enjoyed that. I could do more. I could do more of that.
We really have had a very broad spectrum of topics that we've covered.
Oh yeah,
Like we've gone
yeah.
from like really meticulous rules to like weird wacky ideas to more or less just shooting the shit. We even played Iron Sworn for one episode. So we've done quite a bit.
I still want to get back to that
Yeah.
at some point, but I think now it's been long enough. I think we would just start over, or do something with a little more structure.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's good. It's fun. I like doing it, and I want to do more. Um, and I want to know what you think and what you like.
Hmm.
So I I'm not gonna beg, but I'm begging.
Not gonna beg. Yep.
So it's easy. It's so easy
Hmm.
and so rewarding,
It helps
right?
you sleep at night. 9 out of 10 dentists recommend commenting and liking.
Listen. Let's take this parasocial relationship to the next level.
Oh my god.
All right? I'm ready. I'm not afraid.
It's not me. It's you.
Yeah. I
Jeez.
feel like it's always up to me to initiate and you never tell me that you love me.
Mhm. Just feels like such a
Um,
one-way street.
yeah. But I know we can get through it. You
Bring
and
our
me.
audience to couple counseling.
You and me, baby. Uh, yeah. Anyway, thank you, Nathan, for a year. Here's to the next year. And that's all I've got.
Until next time, have a good one.